What's going on, everybody? TRAE4PAY back in the building, coming at you guys with part 2, I believe, of day 8. I just finished editing part 2 right now, and it's about to go up in a second, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody so much for sticking with me and continuing to watch this series. I know it's a lot. I say this pretty much every video, but I really do appreciate it. And also, I noticed in a lot of the cross exams that Darrell's doing, he has these long pauses. I edited those out. Hopefully I didn't leave anything. I'll check right now before I put it up, but hopefully with those out of the way, it'll be a little bit more tolerable. And I'm not gonna hold you guys up too much longer. I just want to say thank you really quick to everybody that donated. So thank you so much to Miss Kimmy Ackers for a $17 donation through Super Thanks and Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you so much for that. You've been watching for a long time. I really do appreciate it. And thank you once again to the wonderful Miss Rebecca Reams for another $10 donation. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for the encouraging comments that you always leave on every video. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to everybody for the encouraging comments. There's a lot of people that leave some really great stuff in there. Thank you so much to Terry B for a $10 donation. I really do appreciate it. I think you might be new. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if you're not. I just hadn't seen your name before, but if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us, and I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much to Lori Pavsik. I hope I'm saying your last name right. I'm sorry if I'm not, but thank you for a $5 donation. I really appreciate it. And last but not least, thank you so much to Gemma McKendrick for a $10 donation, or 10-pound donation. I'm sorry about that, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. And just so you know, no one has to send me a single thing. The only thing I will say is, if you would like to donate to the community of Waukesha, there are links pinned at the top of the comment section, so if anybody's looking for resources to do that, it is right there for you. All right, so I've taken up enough time. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Everyone, please be seated. State, have the next witness available?
Yes.
Yep, no, I know. I need the jury.
Yes, we're
Go
ready.
back on the record. We'll have the jury brought out. Okay.
Which means the
I know I
subject
did that
matter,
once, but I'm not going to do that again.
jurisdiction time. Hold on. I think I'm going to skip a little bit on this one, because it's like,
Decision.
we pretty much know exactly what he's going to do.
You
I'll give
have
you
not.
you know what? I'll have my clerk print off another copy of that order. So
Oh, I shouldn't have
You know
skipped.
that.
Hold on.
no, I actually know to the contrary, so we're not going to address
So show me lawful law that it says
it.
that.
Mr. Brooks, I provided you with the law.
No,
I'll
you
give
have
you
not.
you know what? I'll have my clerk print off another copy of that order. So
You don't have to
it.
do that. Have
Perfect.
have
That's
her
a great
going
idea.
to, because you apparently didn't read
No,
it. So
have her
I hope you
print
read
off
it
Great
this
idea.
time.
have her print off proof that you have subject matter jurisdiction. How about that?
That's coming right up.
It has to be proven
Mr.
for the
Brooks,
record. It has
you
yet
are
to be
simply
proven.
wrong as a matter of
No,
law.
I'm not. If I'm wrong, then show me that I'm wrong.
I've given you the constitutional and
No,
the
you haven't.
statutory authority.
No, you-
Okay, I'm going to skip forward a little bit.
Which is on my right. It is upper riser. You will be seated.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. State may call its next witness.
The state will call Anthony Winters.
So when he gets in that mode,
All right.
it's just,
Good morning,
At
sir.
this
If you
point,
would
it's
please make
beyond
your way
annoying.
to the witness stand, which is on my right. It is upper riser. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand. My clerk, Teresa, who's on my left, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Please be seated. First thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record, and then spell each.
Anthony Winters, ANTHONY WINTERS.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you. Sir, direct your attention to November 21st, 2021. Were you working in the city of Waukesha that day?
Yes,
What were you doing?
I was driving Lyft.
Can you explain for those few people, I think, who don't know what Lyft is, can you explain what that is?
It's a rideshare app where people can request rides point A to point B.
Now, some people use Uber. Is that similar?
Yes, same thing.
this must be, okay, so I guess Darrell actually did request the Uber that day. I'm guessing that's what's about to happen right now. Because when you request a Uber, I'm guessing like I'm pretty sure maybe his name was on the account when he requested the Lyft, so.
And is that your full-time job?
No,
Did you go to the parade, the city of Waukesha parade that day?
I did not.
Were you aware that the parade was in downtown Waukesha that day?
Objection, lady.
Over oath, you may answer.
Yes, I was.
How were you aware of that?
Everything was blocked off and there was heavy police presence, and then I saw kind of the convoy going.
Okay. So you say everything was blocked off. What do you mean by that?
Like a lot of the streets, when I was having to go pick up people, a lot of the streets were blocked off, so I couldn't go certain ways.
Darrell's probably
Do
loving
you
he
recall
said
approximately
that.
what time you started driving that day?
It was around like 3:25.
Mr. Winters, do me a favor. If there is an objection that's been raised by either party, wait to answer the question. I'll rule on the objection and then I'll let you know.
Yes, ma'am.
So the objection's noted, it's overruled, and you may continue answering.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said,
3:25.
thank you. And do you know approximately how many fares you took that day?
That
Objection,
day,
speculative.
Overruled, you may answer.
that day it was probably anywhere from like about 11 or 12, somewhere in there.
Were your clients all from the city of Waukesha? Was that the general area they were working?
Objection, irrelevant.
Overruled, you may answer.
No, I just happened to be in that area at that time.
You know Darrell was going to press on the barricade
do you know
thing.
approximately what time you got done working that night?
Oh, it was probably later, around like 10, 11 o'clock that night.
When you got home, did you see anything on the news?
No.
At some point, did you become aware of an incident that had occurred during the city of Waukesha Christmas parade?
Yes.
Objection, leading.
Overruled, he may answer. His answer may stand.
Generally, what information did you obtain?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
When I saw a bunch of police cars going, I contacted my sister because my niece goes to school at Carroll, and I was wondering what was going on. She told me something that wasn't even true that was going on, but later, after the next day after watching the news and social media, I found out what happened.
Looking back, when you were working November 21st, 2021, did anything seem relevant with regard to that news that you saw?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, you may answer.
Yeah, I had.
He's really just tossing objections
Call
out.
that was in the area, and it was just like a really weird call because no one ever showed up, but there was a very descriptive message that I got from the person that asked for the call about who I was looking for.
Okay, so I'm going to direct your attention to that day,
man.
November 21st, at approximately 5:15 p.m. What time did how do you receive communication when you get a client?
When you're signed into the app, it'll just pop up. You can accept it or you can decline.
So you say it just pops up. How does it pops up on
on my cell phone?
Okay, and did you receive a fare request or a ride request at approximately 5:15
Objection,
p.m.?
leading.
Overruled, he may answer.
Yes, I did.
What information were you given with regard to that request?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, he may answer.
So the fare came in for dawn, and the address I was picking up at was, I think it was 550 Elizabeth, and it was an empty. Well, it wasn't an empty. It was an empty parking lot, but it was a company that was closed. And then I was given information that I was looking for a light-skinned black guy with dreadlocks.
Okay. Now, when you say that the name associated was Dawn?
Mm-hmm.
That's a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And what does
His
that
mom.
mean to you? I'm not sure exactly how Lyft works, but
That's just
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled, you may answer.
that's just the name of the person that I'm picking up. That I'm assuming that's the person I'm picking up.
okay. And were you in the city of Waukesha when that pop-up
I believe
came
that's his mom's
on your
name.
phone?
Yes.
So what did you do?
I drove to the parking lot and waited and hit that I arrived and waited for whomever was going to come out of the company.
And that would be, you said 550 Elizabeth Street?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's in the city of Waukesha?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you receive information as to where you're taking the person when you initially get the pop-up?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, you may answer.
When you initially get the request, you don't know where the person is going. until you say that you arrived. Then you can see the address that they're going to.
Okay.
Darn,
So
that is his
did you
mom's
eventually
name.
arrive at that location?
Yes.
What did you observe?
It was just a dark parking lot and a couple police cars on the street. No one was really around though. It seemed like it was like a closed building. I didn't know, just empty parking lot, no one there.
Okay. And did you see anyone, both strike that. When you arrived at the location, do you send something through your app that says I've arrived?
Objection. Read.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, there's a button that you can just click and say I arrived, and it sends a message to the person letting you know that you're out. Let them know that you're outside and they have 5 minutes to come out.
Now, is that when you would get the destination on your app?
Yes.
And do you recall what that destination was?
I don't recall the physical address. I just know it was on 19th Street in Milwaukee.
So you said that you
It's insane how much of a trail this guy left, and he's still sitting in here right now. I'm pretty sure I've said this so many times. It's probably it's probably annoying at this point. He's left such a trail though that leads directly to him. I mean, he honestly should have just pled guilty and, saved everyone from having to relive the terror that he put this community through. But of course, he doesn't care, I do feel like I mentioned in the last video, and it's, a lot of people in the comments, they feel the same way as well, that he's just basically doing this for his own little game or entertainment. He probably does enjoy the fact that he can see exactly what he's done, and he can see, like, he probably relishes in being able to relive that experience and everything. But yeah, when you see how much of a evidence trail that like leads directly to him, like every single thing that they bring up, it points directly to him, but he's still here somehow, or for some reason he's trying to plead not guilty, and he's actually trying to, if you want to call this fighting, I don't know, it's just strange that he's even doing this. But
the automated message went out saying that you were there and that you give that person 5 minutes.
Yes.
What happened after 5 minutes?
I began to message with whomever the person was on the other end, letting them know that I was waiting outside and that I was in a white car.
And this is a chat feature as part of the app?
Yes.
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. Your answer may stand.
And then what happened?
I received a message back letting me know who I was looking for and that they were calling a ride for someone else and they didn't know where he was. They then again gave me a description of who I was looking for.
And what was that description?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
Ask and answer.
Overruled. He may answer.
A
That's annoying.
light-skinned black guy with dreadlocks.
After you were given that information, what did you do?
I sent a message saying I didn't see anyone. I received a message back saying I don't know where he is. His phone died. He called me from someone else's phone.
What did you do then?
At that point, I didn't know. It was a basketball court out there, so I thought I was waiting on a kid.
Okay.
So I didn't want to just leave. So I got out my car.
Makes
I knocked
sense.
on the door at the company to see if anybody would come out. I rang the buzzer, got no answer. I got back in my car. I sent the message saying there's no one around. Could they, make sure the person comes out, because I had already been past the 5 minute grace period.
Okay.
I got a message back saying I'll try to call them. I don't know what to tell you.
Then what happened?
At that point, I had been out there for about 7.5 minutes. So at that point, I just canceled the ride.
Approximately what time do you recall canceling the ride?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
It was around 5:30ish, somewhere around there.
And when someone request a ride and they don't appear, is there a charge then to that person?
Objection, irrelevancy.
Yeah, there's a charge if they go past the 5-minute grace period. There is a charge.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further. Thank you.
There may be.
What is okay? I don't know if Darrell's gonna say he has questions for him, but I'm just trying to figure out what could he possibly even ask him besides, more details on the description, and then trying to like basically argue with him about the details of like how the person looks and everything. But the only thing I could think he would ask about are like the barricades, because we know how he feels about barricades. Like he's gonna pretend as if that was the reason he charged through the parade itself. But I don't know what he's gonna ask him. But let's go ahead and see. I'm not sure.
Questions? Any questions for this witness?
Yes.
Oh no, he's taking 10 minutes. I forgot about this.
Do you remember about what time the call came in for the Lyft?
5:15.
I would be so happy knowing that I'd never picked him up too if I was this Lyft driver. After you realize what he's
do you recall
done.
being interviewed by any law enforcement in the days after that night?
Yes.
And do you know if that was by phone or in person?
It was in person.
Get straight to the barricade questions. That's really all you can ask. And then end this cross-exam.
Upon arriving at the destination, you were supposed to be giving a lift to someone. Do you recall if there was anything strange about the destination?
Yeah, it was a closed building. There was no one out there, no cars in the parking lot.
And you said you canceled the ride around 5:30ish.
Yeah.
Do you recall what you did from that point?
I took another fare.
Same area or?
Same area.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't be surprised right now if Darrell actually is like angry with this guy as well, because he left and canceled the ride for him. It's like, because you know how his mind works. It's just so strange. He wasn't there, but he'll feel slighted for some reason that the guy left and wasn't going to pick him up. And so it's like, oh, you were going to leave me? Like, would you agree that that's not a nice thing to do? Or something weird like that, like he did with the officer that shot at him. He was upset. He just finished charging through a parade, hitting numerous people and killing people. But then he's upset that he got shot at, So it just wouldn't surprise me. But what's the name of that game show where that music plays when like you're running out of time? Is it Jeopardy? Like, we need some of that music playing right now.
And you made reference to someone telling you something that wasn't true that was going on. Do you recall what that was?
I do recall what that it was. My sister said that the school told my niece to stay in her dorm because there was an active shooting.
Oh. And we remember they talked about that part, which I guess they were referring to when the shots were fired at his vehicle from Officer Skolton. Dude, in the cross-exam, there's nothing you can even ask him in anyway.
Does your Lyft app have
it would actually make sense if he ended this one, because
a profile picture attached to it?
No.
Okay.
Do you recall when speaking to law enforcement, something to the effect of referring to a profile picture or description included in the profile?
I recall saying that there was no profile picture.
This is why the entire day 7, like he was being laughed at. He can't even make sense of his own questions. I mean, this isn't the exact reason why he was being laughed at, but it's like, when this is the way that you do things, how can we not laugh at you? He has no idea why he's saying what he's saying. And if he would have read the documents before these witnesses got here.
Were you able to see any phone numbers or contact information?
He may understand a little bit why.
You can't see that stuff on the app.
I feel
Before
tempted
you
to skip some of
canceled
these pauses.
the ride,
I might actually
do you
do
recall
that.
the last contact with the person who had set the Lyft up?
Yes, I'm pretty sure they said, I don't know what to tell you, when I told them that I didn't see anyone.
And that was via text message?
It's a chat through the app.
And you said usually even if it's no pickup, there's a charge still associated with it?
Yep.
Are you going to follow up on that by any chance? Or Fisher Price attorney? Or no? Okay.
Do you recall how many requests you completed after that failed one?
Approximately 8 to 10.
Man, that's a lot.
And you did state that you were not at the parade that evening, right?
True.
Which is why you should end this cross-exam. You pretty much asked all you can.
No further questions.
Thank
you. Any
That
recap?
made no sense for it to even go
Thank you, sir.
that.
You may step down.
For it to go that long. And you want to know what's insane? They had a break a second ago, and he had time to skim over the document. Like, he could have read some documents during that break, but he was so like focused on trying to get an argument started about subject matter jurisdiction that he won't read anything. So there you go.
State may call its next witness, please.
The state calls Daniel Ryder.
All right. Daniel Ryder.
Good morning, Mr. Ryder. If you would please make your way to the witness stand, which is to my right. It is up a riser. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand. My clerk, Teresa, who's on my left, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the
This
testimony
is-
you're about to give shall be the truth,
hold
the
on.
whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. First thing I will ask.
Okay, this is the man that I remember that like invited Darrell into his home and everything and gave him a blanket. I think he even gave him like a sandwich and everything like that. Like, this dude is really, he's a kind dude. So like, it sucks that somebody like Darrell like took advantage of that type of kindness. But I do remember this guy.
Ask you to do is to state and spell your first and last names for the record.
Daniel Ryder, Danielrider.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you. Sir, do you live in the city of Waukesha?
I do.
Where were you living back on November 21st of 2021?
553 Elizabeth Street.
Were you living there, were you home there that afternoon and early evening, that Sunday afternoon?
I was.
Was anybody else home with you?
No.
Can you describe what that residence looks like? Is it a single family house, multi-unit? What's it look like?
Yeah, it's
Overruled, you may answer.
it's a three or four bedroom house with 2 bathrooms. It's a Cape Cod style home, land and stone. Yeah, it's got a 2.5 car garage.
Okay. Do you know what Aries Industries is?
Yeah.
Where is Aries Industries in relation to the house you're describing?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. Witness may answer.
Yeah, Aries is right across the street from my house.
That afternoon, November 21st, were you aware that the Waukesha Christmas Parade was taking place?
Yes, I was aware of the parade.
Did you attend the parade?
No.
Did you watch the Packer game?
I did watch the Packer game earlier that day, but I was watching the Chiefs-Cowboys game that evening.
Okay.
Or that, I think it was afternoon. I don't know exactly what time it was, but...
Do you recall what happened at a...
I think Darrell actually slipped in an objection right there, but they just talked over him. I really like that. I'm glad that happened.
Objection, leading.
Overruled. He may answer.
Yeah, so earlier that day I was in my hometown, Prairie du Chien, for deer season, and then I drove back to Waukesha. I got home in Waukesha, my home in Waukesha, around 4 o'clock, and I was watching the game, and then about 5 o'clock my Ring doorbell goes off, and then there's a gentleman at my front porch knocking on the door saying that they're homeless, they're cold, and they need to use my phone so that they can tell their Uber where to pick them up.
What did that gentleman look like?
He was African American. He had long hair and a beard.
Do you remember what he was wearing?
Yeah, he had a red T-shirt, reddish orange T-shirt, and no shoes on, pants. But I remember it stood out to me because it was cold and really windy that day, and he was outside with a T-shirt and no shoes and saying he's really cold, so that stood out.
You mentioned a few moments ago your Ring doorbell. Is that a device affixed to your exterior door frame?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
It's fixed to the outside of my porch, so not quite on the door, but just next door to the door. Yeah.
Okay. And does that capture video?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Yes.
What about audio?
Yes.
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Did your
Now
Ring
he's objection
video
happy. He's going to
doorbell
keep doing it.
capture the video and audio of your initial interaction with that gentleman on the afternoon of November 21st?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
The Ring doorbell, when it senses motion, it takes a 20-second snippet, and the 20 seconds that I got from the initial interaction was just the suspect coming up to my house and knocking on the door and saying he's homeless and needs help. I didn't get the verbal interaction that I had with him on the Ring doorbell because it only filmed 20 seconds.
After the fact, so later that evening, did you speak with law enforcement?
Yes.
And did you subsequently at some point provide that 20-second Ring video doorbell clip to a law enforcement officer?
Yes.
Did you edit it in any way before sending it?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
No, and there was 4 or 5 different snippets, not just the one 20-second snippet. So there was one, the initial interaction of him coming to the door, and then there was another one of him leaving, and then an interaction there, and then the police coming to the door and him asking to come back inside the house when I wouldn't let him in. So there's 4 clips that I submitted, 4 or 5 that I submitted to the police.
I remember
All right,
that.
let's work our way through
remember
this.
that
Let's start, Your Honor, I'd ask that we please show exhibit number 75 for the witness only.
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled.
It sucks to see how many people he took advantage of. Like, it's insane. Even the Lyft driver, I felt bad for him because he stayed out there he stayed out there for a much longer period of time than he really should have. Because, like he said, he thought it may have been a child or something.
I do.
What are we looking at here?
Like, it sucks.
Overruled.
This is Mr. Brooks coming up to my door.
You said Mr. Brooks. Did you know his name at that time?
Not at the time, no.
When did you learn that name? approximately?
The officers were using it after the fact, so I don't know, about 5:30 or so that day.
Does this appear to accurately depict your front porch as it looked as that subject walked up to your door?
Yes.
And this is the video you sent to law enforcement that night, or sometime after that night?
Yes.
Move exhibit 75 into evidence and ask to publish.
Objection.
Exhibit 75 is received permission to publish. Granted.
Objection.
It's noted. Overruled.
As we're waiting for that to pop up in the jury box on their screens, I'll ask you, Mr. Ryder, do you see a date and timestamp on the bottom right-hand corner of this video?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
I do.
Is that a timestamp that's a feature of Ring, or was that added after the fact?
Objection.
Overruled.
It's a feature of Ring. I didn't add that, yeah.
And to your knowledge, does that timestamp appear to be accurate?
Objection.
Overruled.
Speculative.
Yes, that is accurate.
For the record, the objection was overruled.
This is a 20-second clip. I'm going to ask that we play it once with audio.
Oh boy. This is gonna be, look at this.
Hey, I called an Uber and I'm supposed to be waiting for it over here, but I don't know when it's coming. Can you call it for me, please? I'm homeless.
He really did say he was homeless. That is unbelievable.
Thank you. And just for those of us with not the greatest eyesight, would you mind reading that timestamp on the bottom right hand at the beginning of this exhibit?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Yeah, it says November 21st, 2021, and the timestamp says 17:01, so 5:01 p.m.
Okay. The voice we heard in that exhibit that we just played, whose voice is that?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Objection.
You may answer, sir.
It's Mr. Brooks's voice.
No confidence in
It's
that
not yours.
objection.
No.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd ask that Mr. Brooks please be instructed to remove his face mask momentarily.
Sir, would you please remove your face mask and face the witness?
Was that?
Should I get a
question
screenshot?
The
said
state's
he made-
asked, sir, please remove your face mask and face the witness.
I'm confused. He made a statement about voice.
And we've moved past that, so take off your face mask.
The question's been asked and answered.
We're not asking
Please
about that
remove your
anymore.
What is the question?
Can we get somebody in
Please
here
remove your
to
mask and face the witness.
force this face mask off of him? All right.
Yes.
Thanks for the screenshot, dummy. All right. Sorry about that. Okay.
Mr. Ryder, do you see the person depicted in exhibit number 75 in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you identify him for us by telling us where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He's sitting at the table right there wearing a black suit and a gray striped tie.
I'd ask the record reflect that the witness has identified Mr. Brooks.
The record will reflect that the witness has identified the defendant as the person depicted in this video and the person who was on his porch on November 21. Go ahead.
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name for the record.
Go ahead, your next question, please.
Thank you. What happened in the moments after this video, the 20 seconds that were captured?
So he was on my porch for, I don't know exactly, a minute maybe, and he was telling me the interaction, or he was telling me that he needed to use my phone to let his Uber know where to pick him up, and that he was homeless and cold, and he said he didn't have any weapons or anything on him, and he lifted his shirt real quick, and I was like, no, it's okay, you can use my phone, and I let him come inside and warm up. I just tend to believe people, and I'm from a small town, and we had people that need help all the time because we live right off a highway, so I'm used to, didn't faze me too much. I mean, I was nervous for sure, but I was like, yeah, I can use my phone. And he made it sound like the Uber was going to be here just any second, just needed to know where to pick him up. So I said, yeah, you can come and warm up while you wait for the Uber. And I let him sit on the couch right by the window out front. I said, you can look out here waiting for your Uber. And he's on the phone most of the time after that with his mom. And he's saying, the address 553 Elizabeth Street is where it needs to come, and how far away is it, kind of things like that. But
okay,
I guess is that what you're wondering, or?
Let me back up.
Yeah.
You made a motion with your hands there regarding what Mr. Brooks said about not being armed. You do that again, just for anybody who missed it?
Objection. I don't know. Not consent to being called that name.
Go ahead and
Again, for the record.
Yeah, so I don't remember exactly what the motion was. I remember him saying he didn't have any weapons and he's not dangerous. And I think he lifted his shirt really quickly. But then I was like, don't worry, I'm not worried about that. And so I didn't, it's not like I patted him down or anything like that. But.
Okay. Did you let him in the front door that would be right next to your video doorbell?
I actually...
Leading.
I can rephrase.
Go ahead, rephrase.
What door did you let Mr. Brooks into your home?
I let him in the back
I
door.
don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled. Go ahead, you may answer.
Yeah, the back door.
Okay. So he went around the side of the house to get to the back door?
That's right.
Okay. What happened when he got to the back door?
I don't remember exactly. I remember letting him in. Well, I remember, so I just got back hunting, so I asked him to go through the back door so I could make sure I didn't have any weapons laying around. And so after that was good, then I let him in the back door. It's more just to give me a second to make sure nothing was tempting or anything. But I let him in the back door, and I think I gave him a coat right away, and then gave him my phone, and then told him where to sit down. And when I told him to sit in the spot, he didn't move or anything. He stayed right there and listened to me.
What else did you give him?
I gave him a sandwich because he said he was homeless, and I said, I can get you some slippers to put on your feet to warm your feet up. I never did end up giving him slippers. But yeah, so I gave him a jacket to wear while he was at my house.
I'm glad he at least didn't get any
slippers. Gave him a spot to sit and wait for the Uber and a sandwich.
You testified earlier that he was on the phone with his mom. How do you know that?
Objection. Speculative.
Overruled.
A few reasons. I heard him say mama a lot, and his mother called me, and I didn't answer, but his mom called and left a voicemail after the fact, confirming it.
Whose phone was he using while he was inside your house?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled.
He was using my personal cell phone.
How would you describe his demeanor as he was inside your house?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
I would say flustered, but also there were many times he was thanking me, and so he was grateful, and he even said, "Thank you so much for showing me love, man," and he was calling me bro, and so it wasn't, I guess that didn't make me feel like I was in any danger at the moment.
Did Mr. Brooks leave your home at some point?
And we know all of that was fake. He was
Overruled. You may answer.
definitely not thankful for any of it.
I'm sorry, can you, I
Just an
lost train of
opportunist.
thought. Can you say it again?
Did he leave your home at some point?
Yeah, he left when I asked him to. So he was in my house for 8 or 9 minutes, and then I was standing on the front door looking outside because I was getting a little nervous because I thought the Uber would be there in a minute or two, not 10. And so after 8 or 9 minutes, I'm looking around outside and I see a police car drive by, and then I see another one coming down the street. And so I tell him, I say, hey, we don't get a lot of police traffic on this street, and I'm getting nervous, and this is just too weird of a situation. You're fine to wait for your Uber, but you need to do it outside of my house. And
That's another situation where quick thinking is coming into play. You know, just like with Officer Skolton when he broke down why he came to the decision that he should draw his firearm and actually shoot at the vehicle. You know, he talks right now, he's explaining exactly why he came to the decision to ultimately kick Darrell out, which was the best decision he could make, because ultimately once he kicked him out, he got caught like right away. So that was quick thinking though. He sees all the police cars, and that pretty much let him know like something's not right about what's going on right now.
he was a little bit like, oh no, it's okay, don't worry, man, don't worry. And I said, no, you need to leave. And then he listened and got up, and I've got video footage of that, of me escorting him outside of my house. He's still on the phone, and he's still got my jacket on, but I just said, you need to leave. Do you want me to say, I mean, do you want me to keep
Hopefully
going?
they'll show
I just
the
want
ring
you to
footage
answer my
again.
question, so,
Okay, yeah.
let's pause
I think
there.
they walked up and caught him.
Show for the witness only, please. Exhibit number 77.
Actually, they might show it like right here.
We'll just
Funny enough.
we'll play a few seconds of this without any audio, and actually, to save time authenticating, Your Honor, I think we'll do this with the remaining 3 videos we have.
Go ahead. So this
So-
is
77, yep.
77. All right, thank you.
Play a few seconds, please. Without,
77.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, we played 4 seconds from Exhibit 77. Do you recognize that clip?
I do.
And what is that?
It's Mr. Brooks walking out first with a jacket on, and me in a long sleeve shirt, a gray shirt, walking out behind him.
Can we show for the witness only, please, Exhibit 78?
That's perfect.
Go ahead.
We'll play the first couple of seconds of this one, too.
I love when they describe the exhibit like that, because when I take notes, it's perfect. I literally just write what they're saying.
Played the first 8 seconds of that. Did you recognize that clip?
Yes.
What does that show?
That shows Mr. Brooks after I had him leave and get my phone and jacket. He was outside, and then him asking to come back inside because he said he left his ID inside my house. And that was on the audio, but it sounded like he had the audio off for that.
And we'll show you 79 now without any audio as well, just for the witness. Okay. We played 8 seconds of Exhibit 79. Do you recognize that video?
Yep.
What does it show?
It shows an officer on my porch after the suspect was put into cuffs, asking if I knew who the suspect was.
Are Exhibits 77, 78, and 79 accurate depictions of your porch that night?
Yes.
Overruled. His answer may stand.
Move Exhibits 77, 78, and 79 into evidence and ask to publish all 3, please.
Objection.
The objection is noted as to all 3. It is overruled. Exhibits 77, 78, and 79 are received permission to publish. All 3 are granted.
I'm excited to see this ring
77
footage
is
again.
up now for everybody. It's a 21-second clip. We're going to play it once with audio,
Before you
please.
do that,
Oh,
can you
boy,
just
here we
confirm
go.
it's in the jury box? Not yet. Okay. Let me know.
This silhouette of him on the porch is beyond creepy.
I guess while we're waiting, we can make use of this time. Mr. Ryder, could you read the time and
He's
date
actually
stamp for us
reading
on the
something.
right-hand corner?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's November 21st, 2021, 17:10, so 5:10 p.m.
All
Okay,
right,
we've
thank
got
you.
it up for the jurors. Let's play this once with audio.
Oh, his neighbors. Hold on. That's another part too. I think he's gonna explain it. That was another crucial moment where like he started to put the pieces together once again that something really isn't right with that situation. So I think his neighbors actually said like this looks like the guy or something like that that just ran through the parade or something like that. He's gonna explain it way better. But
Do you see yourself in that video?
Yes,
What are you wearing in the video?
a gray shirt,
Overruled.
a gray shirt.
Did you hear the wind in that video?
Yes.
What do you recall being said in that portion of the video?
Objection. Bleeding.
Overruled.
I'm walking Mr. Brooks outside of my house, and my neighbor, Greg, says, "Are you guys looking for that guy?" And I had no idea of anything at this point, and so I say, "I don't know. This might be him." You can hear that in the audio. I don't know if anybody was able to distinguish that, but that's what was said. And then Mr. Brooks says, "No, no, no." And then I say, "Can I have my phone, please?" And then after that, I say, "Can I have my jacket, please?"
Did he provide those items to you?
He did.
And really quick, I'm sorry I'm pausing so frequently now, but think about how like terrifying that is, that you try to do a good deed like this, and then all of a sudden you start to realize like, okay, so you're actually a mass murder pretty much, like that I invited into my home. Like that is the most terrifying thing, you know, even though like you said he wasn't armed and he didn't have anything. It's like I put myself in that situation, like after he gets arrested and everything, I would just have a moment of like, I cannot believe that that just happened. Like this dude was in my home. Like it would just it would just be like a terrible feeling. knowing that
Please
somebody
put up,
like that was in here.
For the jury,
I
please,
don't know.
Exhibit 78.
I don't know how to explain it.
This is a 20-second clip. We will play it once with audio, please.
My ID. My ID.
There's no ID. Oh look, they're walking up on his location. Okay.
Mr. Ryder, what happened during that video clip?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Mr. Brooks, or I should say the suspect, came to my door, asked to come back inside to look for his ID. I said, no, I'll look for it. You stay out there. And I was looking underneath the couch and everywhere that he sat for his ID when I hear the police officers saying, put your hands up. And
Did you ever find that person's ID?
no,
Did that person leave anything else inside of your house?
no,
Flip-flops?
No.
Sweatshirt?
Objection leading.
Sustained as to the form of the question. Please rephrase that last question.
What, if anything else, did that suspect leave in your house?
I don't.
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
I didn't find anything left in my house.
Okay. Can we please show for the jury Exhibit 79? This is a 19-second clip. We will play it once with audio.
Oh, I see his feet right here. They actually got him on the ground. And I think it's some body cam footage that like shows.
Absolutely not. Okay.
We paused at 18 seconds. That's the police officer you were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you, just for the record, read for us the time and date stamp on the bottom right-hand corner here at the 18-second mark of exhibit number 79?
Yeah, it's November 21st, 2021, and the time is 17:12:59 seconds, so 5:12 p.m.
The video is a little bit blurry. Do you know where Mr. Brooks is at this point?
Objection leading, and I do not consent to being called that name.
Overruled. The objections noted. You may answer the question.
Yeah, the suspect is on the east side of my walkway, on the northeast side of my house, in my yard. If you see where those two police officer heads are, the suspect is on the grass right there.
That's all I have for this witness. Thank you.
All right. Any cross?
Boy.
Yes. Just one second.
Just taking 10-minute pauses again, but I was just gonna say I do feel like at some point they showed like body cam footage right of like the moment that he was getting arrested, like you could see it up close and personal. I don't think they've already shown it. No, because that wouldn't make sense. In terms of this cross-exam, I can't exactly remember how it goes. I don't know if like he gets aggressive with this guy for like kicking him out of his house and everything. I think he kind of did, because I reacted to this part like a long time ago, but I think he is gonna be upset that he kicked him out and possibly get aggressive. I mean, we're gonna find out here. I'll just go ahead and I won't keep your pause.
Right.
Okay.
Will you be needing any of those videos put back up at any time?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Thank you.
And before that evening, you didn't know the guy that came to your house, correct?
Correct.
So how can you say that
And
he's
so
Darrell
why do you
Brooks?
refer to?
Here we go.
Why do you refer to him by name if you didn't know him?
Because after the fact, the police officers and other people involved informed me of who the suspect was that was at my house that night.
And this is so weird. How does he think people acquire information? It's like, how does he think that people learn other people's names, you know? Like I don't know if he's trying to say it has to be said directly from the person, but then it's like, okay, you said it at some point. Like, people are telling me in the comments, he literally said his name at one point. So that entire argument is like null and void in itself. Him trying to say, oh, how can you say that you know the person's name when I never told you? What? He learned it. You can learn it from another person, or you can learn it from media. You can read it somewhere. It's just really dumb
fair
stuff.
To say you captured, or your ring captured quite a little bit of video. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
And did you turn over all the ring footage to law enforcement?
I believe so. I mean, there was probably 7 or 8 other snippets of just officers coming in and out. I do believe I turned all that in, but nothing of evidence or anything.
And were you aware that the ring footage was shown on social media platforms?
I was aware, yes.
Any idea how that came about?
Objection.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Grounds.
Overruled. He may answer.
Yeah, I released it.
And you released it. What do you explain? What you mean by released it?
Yeah, the news wanted the footage, and I thought that this was good footage for this community and the victims to see some justice of the suspect put into cuffs, so I decided to release it.
And
that makes sense. It's
were
not
you
going to
paid
stop
for
him
that
from.
release?
Hold on.
I was.
He's still going to try
to. Fair to say that you profited off your ring footage.
Here we
The
go.
incentive to release the footage was not to make money, and we donated a lot of money of the money we did see off of it. But yes, we did. The money did make, or the video did make money.
Do you recall how many videos you released?
I believe it was 4.
And you got paid for all 4?
I don't know if it was paid for a per video basis, or we were getting bombarded by the news, so we did it. We worked with the agent that then dealt with all the news people, and we just got some off the back end. So I don't exactly know how that works.
So would it be fair to say that you sold that footage?
Yes.
And I was just going to say, it doesn't, he just explained exactly why he did what he did. And he even explained what he did with the money. And so you would think at that point, this line of questioning to frame it as if like he did that completely for like a negative reason, to release the footage just to like, I don't know what he's trying to say, to humiliate him. I don't know. But him trying to angle it to say like, oh, this is a negative that you sold it, right? You just want to make money from this. Once he explained this part, you would think Darrell would kind of back off and go, oh, okay, well, that's out the window. No. He's still going to try to press forward on this and just like word it in a new way. Like ask the question 5 times. Just in a different way to say, so you sold it just to make some money. Is that what I'm hearing here? Like, it's just weird. It's like, man, he answered this question numerous times, but...
And you stated that you were, while having this interaction, you were a little nervous. Debbie, fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Did you feel like you were in any danger or just nervous?
I never felt like I was in danger until I saw the police driving by. Then I did.
But initially, your interactions, you didn't feel like you would be overtaken in any way?
No, and the person at my door was very polite, so I didn't feel in danger.
And you
I'm gonna have to edit a lot of these
testified
pauses out.
to the effect that you had just arrived back home from hunting that evening?
That's correct. Well, not just arrived, but 4 o'clock probably got home, 4:15.
At that time, had you heard anything about what happened at the parade?
No, all I knew was that there was a parade that day, but I had not heard of any incident happening at all.
At any time during your interaction with the suspect, did you notice any car keys?
No. It's not to say he didn't have any on him, but I didn't notice any.
You didn't notice any?
Nope.
That'd be fair to say.
Yep, that'd be fair to say.
These questions, these are some of the dumbest questions sometimes.
You notice
I just
any
can't help but
drug or alcohol?
shake my head at them.
I didn't personally notice any drug or alcohol. I know there was some substance found on my porch after the fact, but I didn't notice. I think maybe I smelled a little bit of weed or something, but nothing stood out too much.
What was the point of that question as well? That kind of only proves that he did this with a sober mind, if anything. It's kind of like another situation where he's padding the prosecution's argument ever so slightly. But
And you stated that you gave the suspect a jacket and a sandwich?
Yes, sir.
And was that due to the suspect saying that they were homeless and cold, or did you just take the initiative to do that?
I don't remember the suspect asking for food, but I do remember them saying multiple times that they were homeless and cold and needed help, and so I took the initiative to try to help any way I could in the moment. I think I offered the jacket and the sandwich. I don't think they ever asked for either one.
And I hope this
And you let them
experience...
use your phone, correct?
Yes.
And how do you know for sure who they were talking to?
Because the number that they had called me back and left a voicemail saying that they were the mother of the person that just called. She said something to the effect of, "Hi, you just let my son use your phone. I'm calling back to figure out what's going on." And so that told me. And I did hear the suspect use mama when they were on the phone too.
Did you follow up with that voicemail?
I did not.
Grounds.
Overruled.
May I just clarify the basis was he didn't describe it as a voicemail?
He did. He said he left.
I thought he did, but
yeah.
Anyway, the objection's overruled. Did you finish asking your question? Why don't you just ask it again?
Did you follow up with the caller that left the voicemail after that?
I never called her back. No, she just called one time and left one voicemail. I did give the phone number to the police because they asked for it, so I gave them the number you had called and then told them about the voicemail calling me back. But I didn't release that to anybody
said you.
else other than the police.
Who is you?
Do you recall
didn't argue with it
keeping
that time?
that phone number in your call log after that?
I believe it's still in my voicemail history, if that's what you're wondering.
Even now?
Even now, yeah.
Any reason why you would keep it this long?
It's just, I didn't go out of my way to keep it. It just is on there. I don't get a lot of voicemail, so I checked this morning just to make sure it was on there, and it still is on the bottom of my list.
So why would you check for it this morning?
Because I thought maybe it'd come up today. I don't remember the exact number, but I still have the voicemail if I needed to bring that up.
What led you to believe that it may come up this morning?
Because I knew I had to testify, but I didn't know what exactly would come up or not.
What do you mean by you knew you had to testify? Is that...
I got a subpoena and asked to come and share what happened at my house that day, and that was one of the things that happened.
You seeked testifying.
Objection.
Grounds.
Argumentative.
Sustain us to the form of the question.
Some of the things that he presses on, the details that he tries to get more information on, it's like, dude, this is a waste of time. So like some of the areas of the testimony that he gets into, like the phone call, he should probably just not even ask any questions about that. Like anything where it's like evidence that can directly point to him, like I've said, he should probably just stay away from that and try to focus on I don't know. I don't even know what he really could do. That's why I say, like, he should not even be here right now. But he shouldn't even focus on those areas, though. I feel like in situations like this, he should probably just ask questions on something completely different. You know, maybe more questions about the description of the person or something. I don't know. Just anything but that. Like, she mentioned you were her son, and you called her mom, like, directly in front of him. So I don't know why he's even doing this.
So you made reference to still keeping the voicemail. Did you keep any of the ring footage?
It's still on my phone, yes.
You said it was like 6 or 7 videos?
I didn't keep anything past the officer coming up to my door after. So I think I've got only 4 saved, maybe 5.
Any reason why you would keep those this long?
I just haven't felt the need to get rid of them, I guess. I mean, that video is protecting me, you know, from being involved or anything, so there's no reason I would ever get rid of it.
Would it be fair to say that
that's true?
You weren't involved in anything that evening?
Other than trying to help somebody who I thought was in need, I was not involved in anything that evening.
So why would you have any fear that you may be implicated in anything, and if you know that you weren't involved in anything?
Because I had a suspect who had just done horrendous things come to my house, and automatically people are going to think that maybe I had something, or I knew you or something, and I didn't. And so this is just validating that you told me you were homeless and I was trying to help a stranger out when really... Sorry. What's the question?
Okay, this is a prime example of what I'm talking about. So right now, it's the strangest thing. He'll have situations where he's insanely, like, rude to everybody in the courtroom, and the overall vibe that he gives off is that, like, he doesn't care about this entire process, and, like, he just, you know, he doesn't care about the victims or anything like that. But then you have these weird moments where he actually, like I said, he pads the prosecution's argument, and then he asks questions, or he clears up certain things for people. So right now, he just asked him, would it be fair to say that you weren't involved in this? And so he basically, and like I said, all the evidence points towards Darrell. But if he's trying so desperately to get out of this situation, like I guess he is, I guess you can call this fighting, why would he try to, like, exclude anyone from being a potential suspect? I mean, this guy's not a suspect at all. But you know what I mean. Why would you even do that? If you're trying to say you're not Darrell Brooks and you're not the one that, well, he can't really use that, even though he's been trying to use that argument. But if you're trying to basically say you weren't the one that did what you did, then why would you clear anyone's name? If that makes sense. I'm not sure if that makes too much sense, but It's just weird to me in this moment that he just did that. Would it be fair to say that you weren't involved in it? Why would you? Okay. It's just very strange when he like kind of goes back and forth with that type of thing.
It'd be fair to say that you weren't arrested in any connection to any events that evening. Would that be fair to say?
That'd be fair. I've never been arrested.
And so my question would be, why would you think that you would be implicated in any way?
Objection.
Grounds.
Asked and answered. Next question.
Man, that is weird.
And how do you feel that the keeping of the videos would protect you from something that you don't need protection from?
Objection.
Grounds.
Asked and answered. Sustained.
I think I misspoke when I said that it was protecting me, because it's not necessarily protecting me. It's just something I haven't got rid of yet.
Darrell's questions are so frustrating. Sometimes you see witnesses just going through like numerous bottles of water because it's like, what are these questions right now? You have to think in a way that you never even planned to think. Like, these questions are so weird. Oh no, we slowed down to a snail's pace again. It's like he sped up ever so slightly. Now he's back to this.
Do you recall interaction with law enforcement by the name of Officer Luling?
I do.
Do you recall emailing him portions of the ring footage?
Yes.
Do you recall how many portions?
Maybe 4 or 5. I don't remember exactly how many. So no, I can't recall that exactly how many I did.
Do you recall if it was 6?
I don't recall.
If he would have gave a specific number, Darrell would have just argued for the next 10 minutes about that.
I'm assuming at some point that after escorting the suspect out of your house, you went back into your house?
Yep.
And what did you do from that point?
Make sure we're recording.
When I escorted the suspect out and he gave me the jacket and the phone back, I went right inside, locked the door, and I don't remember exactly what I did. I think I stood in there and looked outside because I wanted to see whatever was going on, see either the suspect get into an Uber and leave, or see the police get him in cuffs. And it was a matter of a minute later, the suspect came and was knocking on my door again to come back inside and look for the ID.
You can call him you. It's nothing he can do about it. You can call him Darrell Brooks. All of that. There's nothing he can do.
When asking for your phone and your jacket back, was there any resistance on the part of the suspect, or did they just?
Maybe a few seconds to finish up their phone call, but they gave it back as soon as I asked for it.
And you stated at one point going back in your house to look for the ID and wasn't able to find the ID?
Yeah, the suspect came back after I escorted him out of my house, came back like about a minute later, asking to come back inside and look for his ID. And I said, no, I'll look for it for you. So I was looking for his ID. I didn't let him back inside.
And you didn't find any ID when you looked?
No, I did not find any ID.
Did you find anything unusual?
No.
And after seeing reports on the news and things of the like, did you come into any more information at that point?
Objection.
Grounds.
Vague.
Sustained us to the front of the question.
Did you learn anything from news reports that you didn't know that evening?
Yes. After the fact, I learned of the suspect's criminal well, I guess, sorry.
We're not gonna go there.
Okay. I learned
Oh yeah.
the name of the suspect at my house. I learned what that suspect was put into cuffs for at my house. And I learned what vehicle he drove and the details of the incident.
Did you observe the suspect in the vehicle at any time?
No.
Did you notice any vehicles parked in the area that you hadn't seen before?
No.
Well, no, you ditched it in somebody's
You
driveway.
made reference to briefly speaking with neighbors at that time.
Yeah, when I was escorting the suspect out of my house, the neighbors said, "Are you guys looking for that guy?" And up to that point, I had no information of a person that you should be looking for. So I said, "No, this might be him."
Do you know what they were referring to at that moment?
Yeah, my neighbor was at the parade, and he was talking about the person driving the vehicle through the parade.
And you knew all that at that moment?
No, I didn't learn about that until the police told me after the fact. I didn't know what he was referring to when he said, "Are you guys looking for that guy?" I didn't know anything about anything particular, but just that somebody's looking for a guy. And so then that's what led me to believe that the suspect at my house may be the person.
It would be fair to say at that time, at that moment, you didn't know what they were referring to.
That would be fair to say, correct.
Did you have any other interactions with those neighbors that evening?
Yes, they called me after I got done doing my reports with the police, and I explained to them why there was so much police presence at my house afterwards, and that that the suspect was arrested at my house, or at my front porch.
And did they at any time say anything to you about seeing a vehicle or having knowledge of a vehicle at that time?
Yeah, Greg, my next door neighbor, saw the red vehicle running over people.
And he saw that. He told you that he saw that?
Yeah. He told me after I had, I don't know exactly what time, maybe 6:30 p.m. that night, when I called him after the fact.
And man, that's some sad stuff right there. It's like he basically traumatized an entire community. Because think about this, that was just in his immediate area, in his block. His neighbors called him and told them what they saw and about the trauma that they just experienced witnessing, members of their own community being run over. And so think about how widespread excuse me, it must be throughout the city itself, and even beyond Waukesha, because I'm sure people were, visiting from other cities, maybe neighboring cities around Waukesha, and that's something that's basically burned into their memory now. Seeing the people that they know and care about being mowed down, it's like, when you think about like the magnitude of this situation, it's just insane. It's very sad stuff.
After I knew what had happened, then Greg told me that he had seen what had happened. A lot of my neighbors were at the parade.
Do you know if they gave any reports to law enforcement at that time?
I don't know that.
The officers that arrested the suspect at your home that evening, did you see your neighbors speak with any of those law enforcement officers?
I didn't see them, no. Speak with them, no.
He wants to ask a hearsay question so bad. It's like he's inching towards it. I wouldn't be surprised if the next one.
And you stated that they told you what they saw. Any reason why they wouldn't speak with law enforcement, seeing as how they were right there in the area?
Objection.
Grounds.
Only for speculation.
Sustained.
How would he know that?
So would it be safe to say you were pretty well informed that you would be testifying in this matter?
I didn't know. I knew that it was likely, I didn't know until I got the subpoena letter.
And when did you receive that subpoena?
I'm gonna say September, maybe end of August.
We're getting into sovereign citizen BS, I think.
And that was it was sent by the district attorney's office?
Yes.
You recall the name?
No.
After receiving the subpoena, did you follow up with the district attorney's office?
Scratching his beard.
They said that
to the microphone.
they would be emailing me with more details, and I waited until I got the initial email before I did any following up with the district attorney's office.
And were those emails pertaining to testifying in this matter?
Yes.
Have you yourself filed any claims in this matter?
And now the sovereign citizen stuff.
No.
Have you yourself seen or read any complaint in this matter?
No.
He already asked like the paid
You
questions.
yourself can consider yourself an injured party in this matter?
No.
He already asked the have you been paid question, so I guess that's already done and over with. He usually asks that to the officers and stuff, but I guess in this situation, he added that to this one. So that may have been the first time Darrell has actually like thought to mix and mingle something.
Are you aware?
Because he puts no effort into any of this.
Objection.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Sustained.
But yeah, he puts no effort into any of these cross exams or anything about the trial.
Would it be fair to say that you've followed reporting on this incident?
Initially, yeah, I watched the news and followed the reporting on it.
Initially?
Well, like I haven't been following the trial, but I was following the initial reports back in November of last year.
So pretty much right when the incident happened is what you followed?
Correct. You know, the following week or so, or 2 weeks.
You ever hear who the plaintiff was in this matter?
Objection.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Grounds.
Sustained.
And honestly,
Have you yourself
hold on.
ever had any interaction with the plaintiff?
Objection.
Grounds.
Relevance.
Sustained.
It probably hurt Darrell's feelings that he said he didn't follow it.
Do
But
you
over a
even
couple
know if
weeks-
there's a plaintiff in this matter? Grounds.
Sustained.
Why so short of a time? Didn't you want to know more about the suspect?
Do you recall how much you sold the ring footage for?
Objection.
Grounds.
Relevance.
He
Overruled.
circled
Can I
back
answer?
to it.
I believe gross, it was a little over 23,000.
Wow.
But after taxes, and we donated a lot, so we saw a lot less than that afterwards.
Would it be fair to say that's quite a nice profit?
Objection.
Grounds.
It's
Sustained as to the form of the question.
And would that be the price just for one of the ring footages,
This is asked and
or
answered.
in total, all that you sold?
That was the total. Yeah.
The four.
Like I said, I don't know how that worked. That was just the kickbacks that we got from working with the. So yeah, I guess all of it, all four footage that was distributed to the news.
Do you recall which station that was? Which news station?
I mean, I think it was.
Scared the crowd. That cough in the microphone.
NBC, ABC.
Somebody coughed into the mic.
So it was
CBS.
multiple.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall all of them. No, I don't exactly which ones it was. I don't know.
So it'd be fair to say it was pretty much all the standard news stations.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was caught on camera. That jump scared me, actually. That cough happened. I'll definitely edit that down, though.
Do you recall if that included TMZ?
Objection.
Grounds.
Sustained. You've made your point. You can move on.
No further questions.
Is that Darrell's stomach growling into the microphone? I don't know if you heard that.
Mr. Ryder, do you have your phone on you right now?
Overruled. He may answer.
I don't. I gave it to a gal that let me in here. She's got it though.
While we're waiting on that, you mentioned you checked your phone this morning to confirm that you still had the voicemail we've been talking about, right?
Yes.
Relevancy.
Overruled. You questioned him about it. It's proper.
I'm referring to the use of the phone. What is the phone?
We haven't gotten there
see
yet,
this?
sir. You're premature. You may answer.
You did check.
He can do it, but they can't.
If we were to provide your phone to you here today, do you think you'd be able to find that voicemail?
Objection.
Overruled. He may answer.
Yes.
Do you think you'd be able to play it on speakerphone for everybody to hear?
Objection. What is the relevancy?
Overruled.
Oh, it's very much relevant. It's very relevant.
There's a way to also play it through the technology.
Objection. What is the relevancy?
The relevancy is he literally said
You
this
can unplug it
during
from the
your
charger.
cross-exam, so he can definitely.
Objection. What is the relevancy?
It's relevant, sir. You cross-examine him about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I cross-examined him about the question, not
Brooks,
playing the phone.
please, I've made my ruling.
So is that a judicial determination?
Oh, and now we're back to
Go ahead,
the
you may ask your next
judicial
question.
determination thing. Okay.
Please open up your phone and let me know when you find the voicemail.
It's still pulling up right now.
Sure. You followed instructions and turned your phone off before you came into court.
Objection.
Overruled. He may answer.
Leading.
Yes, I turned the phone off before court.
This is. I'm surprised Darrell is sitting so quiet right now. I mean, he tried desperately to distract it, like initially when they gave him the phone, but man, this is funny.
Which I presume why he's loading that you're not offering the voicemail for the truth of the matter asserted, but simply to substantiate that he received a call.
Yes.
The jury will be instructed in terms of what is said in that voicemail, not to consider it for the truth of the matter asserted, but just simply to substantiate the voicemail was received.
And part of that request, Judge, would be to include the time that the voicemail was left and the number from which it came.
Objection. What is the relevancy of that?
The objection's noted, and you may ask the witness those questions.
You might as well ask about the videos too. Then.
We'll get to those.
How much longer do you
We'll
have?
get to those too. Don't worry about that.
Five
Don't even worry
minutes.
about
Well, I
that.
don't know
We'll
how
get
long
to your
this
videos,
was,
sir.
with that caveat.
All right. Please continue.
It's
Okay.
29-second voicemail.
Okay. Can you tell us what phone number that voicemail came from?
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. He may answer.
The voicemail came from so plus one or whatever. So 414-610-2153.
Can you tell us what time that voicemail came in?
Yeah.
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled. He may answer.
5:27 p.m. on November 21st
Of 2021?
of 2021.
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. His answer may stand.
And Your Honor, at this point, I'd ask to allow the witness to play that voicemail using speakerphone. And if that doesn't work great with the audio system, then we can try the plugging in option.
Once again, the jury, will only consider this not for the truth of the matter, what's asserted in that voicemail, but simply to substantiate that it was received. Go ahead.
Objection.
Noted. Overruled.
Yes, Mr. Ryder, I don't know what's going on. I'm at work. I work at Trader. And my son, that was my son who you let use your phone.
Oh, sorry. I'll restart it. I was using the wrong
Yes,
mic.
Mr. Ryder, I don't know what's going on. I'm at work. I work at Trader. And my son, that was my son who you let use your phone. And he's calling. I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to see if he got the Lyft or what, because the guy is in a white Charger. I guess apparently the Lyft driver switched cars and I didn't get the message. So I'm just trying to find out what the hell is going on. So I'm just want someone to just call me and tell me something, because I don't know.
And then that's the end of the voicemail?
There you go.
Yes.
And you didn't contact the person who called you and left that voicemail after the fact, did you?
Objection. Asked and answered. Cross.
Overruled. He may answer.
No, I never contacted her.
Okay. The videos that we played in court today, those 4 videos,
Every
exhibit
bit of
75,
evidence points
77,
directly
78, and 79. You turned all those videos over to the police, is that correct?
Objection leading.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
To whom did you turn those 4 videos over?
I emailed them to Officer, I believe it was Officer Lilling. There was a Rebecca Carpenter out of Eagle PD that wanted it, and I may have emailed it to somebody with West Dallas PD, but for sure Waukesha Police Department all got it that night.
And while you've got your phone in front of you, are you able to access your call log?
Yeah.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Can you go back to November 21st of 2021?
Okay.
Can you see what number
This is
Mr. Brooks
amazing
dialed
right now.
that day using your phone?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
So my call log didn't save back that far. My voicemails did, but my call log, I've made so many calls since then that I didn't save that. I think the police definitely saved that number when they were at my house that night, though.
Do you recall if it was the same phone number that you received that voicemail from?
Objection speculative.
Overruled. You may answer.
I don't recall for sure, no.
Okay. The videos that you released to the media, did you release anything to the media that you didn't also provide to the police?
Objection.
Overruled.
No, everything that was released to the media was already released to the police department.
Did you alter those videos or the audio that goes with them in any way when you released them to the media?
That's a good question to ask.
Overruled.
No, I never altered any of them.
What about when you sent them to the police?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
No, never altered them.
Were you
You know, Darrell was a halfway decent attorney. He probably would have asked something along those lines if maybe the videos were altered, but...
aware at the time that Ring is a subscription service?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Yes, we pay subscription for it.
And there's a cloud account that goes with that, is that right?
Objection leading.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
I think this is a pretty foundational question necessary to develop the
You're
testimony.
probably right, and can be some leading questions are allowed, but just rephrase that one, please, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Where do the videos go aside from your phone?
Objection speculative.
Overruled.
There's an app on my phone that I was able to save and download off the app onto my phone. So there might be, I'm pretty sure that there's a Ring cloud that the company Ring can probably access the footage, but I was never notified that they have access to it or anything like that.
If someone did want to access those videos through Ring, were you aware at the time that someone would have been able to double check and make sure that you didn't fudge with that video?
Objection leading.
Overruled if you're able to answer.
Yeah, I mean, Ring could, if we needed to get Ring to validate that it's correct, they would be able to do that.
Okay. When Mr. Brooks first knocked on your door, were you planning to sell those videos?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Objection speculative.
It's not speculative. Overruled. The witness may answer.
Objection hearsay.
It's not hearsay. Go ahead.
No, I had no idea what was going to happen after that.
What about after you let him in the back?
You know, it's funny. Those are the only few objections he knows, so that's why he literally stopped right there. He doesn't even know what else to say right now.
Back door and gave him a sandwich and a jacket. Was
Objection.
this all part of a plan at that point?
Objection leading.
Overruled, he may answer.
No, there's no plan to get footage to sell or anything like that, no.
You simply provided those videos to law enforcement and the media.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. I don't have anything else.
After the fact.
All right, thank you. You may step down. It's a little after 12:09. We will take our lunch break. We went a little bit longer, so I'm going to take about a 90-minute lunch break today. So all rise for the jury. We are in recess. I'll see everyone at about 1:40.
And this is what I mean, right? You saw how the prosecution, based on the cross-exam, they asked certain questions that would clear up anything that Darrell was trying to use during his argument. Even though like I said, I don't think Darrell even knows what he's trying to say or like what he's getting at. I'm almost positive he doesn't know. But the prosecution, either way, based on his questions, they clear up anything that he tries to use for his argument. And Darrell doesn't know how to do that. Whatever the prosecution, you know, sometimes the evidence that they show and the things that they present are so substantial, and it points directly to Darrell, like I say, that maybe there are like some gaps. Like, once I don't even fully understand the process either, so it's like, but I know like an attorney could probably hear some of the things that they're asking and some of the things that the witness is saying, and based on that they can go, oh, that's room to ask this certain question here, to kind of break that apart and make it seem as if that really holds no value within this trial. He has no idea how to do it. He has no idea how to do that, and the prosecution just did it perfectly just then. You know, Attorney Zach, he literally just did everything that I was saying Darrell has no idea how to do. So I just thought that was hilarious, but let's go ahead and skip forward.
Is that a judicial
Just
determination?
right back to subject matter jurisdiction. I'm skipping this one.
For the record.
All right, so Darrell just threw another tantrum about subject matter jurisdiction. I skipped that one. And we got a witness coming in right now.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. State, have the next witness, please.
Thank you. The state calls Officer Rebecca Carpenter.
Okay. We got another officer coming in.
Good afternoon, officer. If you would please make your way to the witness stand on my right, up one riser. When you get there, please remain standing. Raise your right hand. My clerk, Teresa, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. First thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
Rebecca, R-E-B-E-C-C-A, Carpenter, C-A-R-P-E-N-T-E-R.
I think she's one of the officers that arrested him, right?
Officer, how are you employed?
I feel like...
On the day of the parade, I was working a shift for the Village of Big Bend Police Department, sir.
Is that who still employs you?
Yes.
Anybody else?
Yes. I'm also a patrol officer for the town of East Troy, and I'm the assistant chief for the Village of Eagle.
How many years have you spent in law enforcement?
I was appointed to the Milwaukee Police Department in March of 1991.
And when did you come out here to the Waukesha County jurisdictions that you mentioned?
I retired from the Milwaukee Police Department as a sergeant in November of 2017, and the first department I got into policing again with was the town of East Troy in May of 2018.
You already made reference to the parade. Were you working on duty as a law enforcement officer on November 21st of 2021?
Yes, sir, I was.
Overruled. And you may answer.
Yes, I was.
Were you aware that day that the Waukesha Christmas parade was taking place?
Actually, I was not.
Did you at some point become aware that there was a parade in downtown Waukesha?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. You
Yes.
may answer.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, I did.
How did you go about learning that information?
I heard over the radio channel that Big Ben monitors, which is not the same radio channel that the parade was on. I heard a broadcast that there had been shots fired.
What did you do in response to hearing that broadcast?
In response to that particular broadcast, I started paying closer attention.
And then what happened?
Squads on my channel, which is a Waukesha County channel, started to say that they were placing injured people in the backs of their squads and driving them to the hospital, which is a highly unusual circumstance.
What did you do when you learned that information?
I started driving toward downtown Waukesha.
Did you get there?
I did.
What happened then?
Initially, I went to the parade route, and I talked to a few people around injured people and determined that I wasn't really able to be of help there because they were all back injuries, and I can't, in a squad, I can't help with that.
So what did you do next?
I answered a call on the radio that said there was a man going door to door on Elizabeth Street asking to use people's phones to call an Uber.
Did you go to look for that man?
I did.
Where did you go?
I responded to Elizabeth Street, and I parked my squad on Elizabeth and West.
Where did you go from there?
I got out and partnered up with two other officers, and we decided that we would walk the street and look for this person.
Were you wearing a body-worn camera at the time?
Yes, sir, I was.
Where was that device affixed to your person?
The control box was on my chest, and the particular model of body-worn camera that I was wearing had a lens that I was wearing affixed to my collar.
Surprisingly, he's actually taking the time to read this right now. I'm assuming he's reading it instead of like just mindlessly tossing out objections. So,
Your Honor, let the record.
Hopefully, he won't have these long
right
pauses.
Hand in a circle and pointed it towards about her collarbone, her right collarbone.
The record will so reflect.
Was that device also equipped with a microphone?
Objection,
Yes.
leading.
Oh boy.
Yes, sir.
And that
I
microphone
spoke
was
too soon.
synced
I
up
spoke
with the
way too
video.
soon.
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether your device was activated as you were walking down Elizabeth Street that afternoon?
Objection.
It was.
Overruled, and her answer may stand.
May we please display for the witness only exhibit number 80?
Go ahead.
Number 80.
It will come on the monitor in front of you.
Do you see a video on the screen in front of you?
Yes, I do.
We're going to play the first 5 or 10 seconds of that just to see if you recognize it, okay? All right, we played 6 seconds. Do you recognize that video?
I do.
What is it?
It is my body camera video of walking down Elizabeth Street.
From November 21st?
Objection,
sir.
leading.
I will overrule it, and the answer may stand.
Does this video and the associated audio accurately reflect what happened that night as you saw it?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Yes, sir.
I'd move exhibit 80 into evidence and ask to publish.
Objection. Relevancy.
Overruled, Exhibit 80 is received, permission to publish is granted. For the record, please tell me the total length.
It is a 5-minute video.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We will start at the beginning. We're going to play it with audio, and we will pause at certain points, and I'll point out the timestamps when we pause. So we'll start from the beginning, please.
I think this is the body cam footage I saw. The body cam footage of when Darrell was actually arrested. See, it's coming back to me in like pieces and parts, but I don't fully remember like the whole cross-exam and the testimonies and everything.
What's up? Hands up! Put your hands where I can see them. Put your hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Do it now!
He's asking, what did I do?
We've paused at 53 seconds. A few moments earlier in the video, we saw what appeared to be a handgun. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, sir.
Who was the person holding that handgun?
That was me.
And who were, well, excuse me, let me strike that. I want to direct your attention to the top right corner of the screen here. There appears to be some type of timestamp. Do you see that?
Objection leading.
Overruled. I do, yes.
Do you know if that is an accurate military timestamp?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
That does not accurately reflect the time it occurred, no.
So it was not 11:11 p.m. at the time this video was recording?
Objection leading.
Oh, sustained as to the form of the question.
I'm surprised by how quick he's saying.
Do you know approximately what time
he's tossing
it was
objections out like so fast this time.
I know that I initially began to respond to the scene at about 20 minutes to 5. And I would be guessing about how much time elapsed, but I would say it wasn't more than a half hour or 40 minutes to this point.
Okay.
But he usually objects with no confidence.
The person who was depicted in the video at this point, at 53 seconds, that's what... Describe where in the video you first saw that person.
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
I first saw him standing on the porch.
And what, if anything, did you see that person doing when you first saw him?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
He appeared to be rather agitated.
Why do you say that?
Objection leading.
Overruled. It's not leading. You may answer.
He was moving back and forth on the porch and gesturing.
He knew it's time to go to prison, that's why.
Do you recall what you were wearing that evening?
I do.
What?
The exact same set of clothing that I'm wearing today.
Including long sleeves?
Yes.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Did this person, depicted at 53 seconds, draw your attention in any way based on what he was wearing?
Yes.
Why?
It was chilly out, lower 40s, upper 30s, and he was in a t-shirt, jogging pants, and no shoes.
We can resume playing here at 53 seconds, please.
It's still more right. You got something with your name on it, man? No. Okay, lads.
Is he gonna say his name?
Okay.
We paused at 1 minute and 4 seconds. What did we see in that portion of the video?
That was a sandwich.
Where did that sandwich come from?
His,
Overruled.
That must be the sandwich he
his
gave
right
him.
pants pocket.
The subject on the ground is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I want to see if he's going to say his name right here, because a lot of people in the comments, I asked this at one point, if he ever like says his name, and I think somebody said that he actually does say his name to the officers when they arrest him. So I just want to see right now, because
Please resume at 104.
It's gonna be ridiculous.
Robert 277. What's your...
We paused at 1 minute and 14 seconds. Did you at some point ask the subject depicted in the video at 1:14 to identify himself by name?
Go ahead.
I did.
What was that person's response?
He identified himself as Darrell Brooks.
Stupid idiot, man. This guy is so stupid. Oh my goodness, man. That's gotta be the dumbest thing. And then that accompanied with the facial expression he's so that accompanied with this little facial expression he's making. I told you, this dude is a cartoon character. That's insane, though.
Do you see Mr. Brooks in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point him out for us by telling us where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
He is seated at the defense table wearing a dark-colored suit and striped tie and a mask over his face.
Just to be thorough, Your Honor, could we please have Mr. Brooks remove his mask momentarily?
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Now that Mr. Brooks has removed his mask,
look at how nervous he looks
about your testimony today?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
You're
leading.
You may go ahead and answer.
That's Darrell Brooks.
Could we please play from 1:14?
There's
multiple units. David 216, you know,
what is your name?
Brooks.
That is just the dumbest
Pause
thing.
at 1 minute and 23 seconds.
That's his main defense, right there. I'm just happy the jury got to see that as well. I mean, not that him saying that he doesn't consent to that being his name ever held any weight to begin with, but it's like, dude, you pretty much just solidified you are a straight up. You're a straight up clown. You said your name in the video, and now you're sitting here today. Somebody in the comments said as well, they said they wish that he would say who it is he's representing. Because, like, he says that he is here as a third-party entity and, you know, representing his client. And somebody said, well, he should say his client's name as well. Who is your client? Let me just play it.
Sitting on the witness stand today, do you acknowledge that Mr. Brooks has a short haircut?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Man, we don't care 1%.
Sustain this to the form of the question, please.
How would you describe
Not
Mr.
1%.
Brooks' haircut today?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Oh. Sir, I understand your objection. Please do not interrupt with that further so that the questioning of the witnesses may continue. You may answer.
If you say that name, I'm objecting.
And the jury will disregard the objection.
Are we supposed to fear the objection? We're supposed to... Your words are supposed to make us... Call him Darrell Brooks about 20 times in a row, please.
Objection if it's solely for the name purposes.
Thank you. She actually did tell them
Brooks
that.
has his hair cut close today.
What about when he took his face mask down? Did you notice his facial hair?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
He does have facial hair.
Did you notice anything different about his facial hair today versus in the video?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
That is also trimmed closer.
Does the hairstyle and the facial hairstyle here in court today give you any pause or concern over whether or not it's Mr. Brooks in the video?
Objection.
Go ahead and answer, please.
No, not at all.
Let's resume playing at 1:23.
Objection noted for the record.
Yeah, just keep playing it.
Oh, okay.
That's what I need. Yeah, we'll mail 1026 to blackmail and red short sleeve shirt.
I'll tell you what. If everything turns out to be on the up and up, life will be good, and you'll be on your way, all right?
I got it. Suspect, I presume?
Unknown. Ask him. Ask him if he knows. He was on the porch here.
Yeah, I was using his phone. What's your location? I was using his phone. You're holding this W, make sure I'm holding her down. I I called my any squad's available for a transport. On the 500. To give me a lift. That's all. I was just using his phone.
He says in the video that he was calling his mother.
Darrell, this is Schwartz. I'm leaving WS.
Let it play. I'll let it play.
What? Can I just sit up? I was freezing. Can I please just sit up?
No. You lay on the ground.
Do you have any weapons on you? No. What's your name, guy? 9209. I just told her my name. What is your name?
What did you tell Park?
Yes, sir. What's your first name? Darrell Brooks? Yes, sir.
Additional victims. We start on the next block.
Copy. No additional victims.
This matches the description of the guy that got called on who was going door to door over here.
Yeah, I was trying.
Where are your shoes, man?
I was trying to use somebody's phone.
Where are your shoes?
My flip-flops is in his house.
Paused at 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Did you hear the last thing said by the suspect on the ground at this point?
Objection
Yes.
leading.
Overruled.
What did he say?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
He said, my flip-flops is in his house.
Do you know if any flip-flops or any other shoes of any kind were ever retrieved from the residence that this was taking place in front of?
Objection speculative.
Overruled. You may answer.
I did go in the house and speak to the resident there and asked if he had left shoes or outer garments or anything like that, and he said that he had not.
Can we please resume at the 2:49 mark?
He was saying he just gave me a jacket.
He's identifying soft fat, lighter skin, black male, dreadlocks, red shirt, blue jeans, no shoes.
Yeah, I did go to the house. I went to that house right there, right down the street, right here.
Where you coming from, man?
I was coming from that parade down here.
Okay.
I know a friend down here.
I think that's a fabulous idea.
I can't, Mr. Brooks.
He literally just said I was coming from the parade. That's probably the only thing that's true that he just said right now. That he's coming from the parade, because he definitely did.
Roll over on your butt.
Okay, now
Roll over on your butt. Roll up on your knees. Roll over on.
To
Roll
his
up on
face.
your knees.
Okay. 500 block of Elizabeth.
Stand up.
No, 553 Elizabeth.
What are you doing?
Freaking
sweet.
Factory here.
Did I do something?
That is yet to be
Go to
determined,
the front of
sir.
my squad, man.
Okay.
Is there anything I need to stick me, poke me, hurt
No,
me?
not at all, sir.
Okay.
Not at all. I don't have any weapons,
Glad to hear it.
nothing like that.
How did you get up over here, man?
I was coming to see a friend.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where's your friend?
I don't know now.
Spin your back your hand for me. You injured at all, dude?
Yeah.
What hurts?
When they slammed me, my knee, I already have an injury.
Spread your feet for me.
Okay, yes. That's my ID.
It certainly is.
Yes. I'm so cold.
I bet you are.
Paused at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Officer, can you tell us what you and any other officers were doing in that brief portion of the video?
Walking him to a squad car so he could be placed inside since he was not dressed for the weather.
What happened once you got to the squad car?
The officer whose squad he was going to be placed in went through his pockets to make sure he did not have anything that would be dangerous.
Okay. And do you know if anything was retrieved from his pockets?
Yes.
Objection.
Overruled. Her answer may stand.
There were no weapons, were there?
Objection
weapons.
leading.
Overruled. Her answer may stand.
What, if anything, do you recall being recovered from his pocket?
ID, some cards, I believe there was a credit card in there, and a car key.
Can we please play from the 4:30 mark?
And the car key.
Go ahead and take a seat for me, Darrell.
Stop making noise. Dude has the nerve to have done all this and now is sitting in the car making all these "I'm in pain from the cold" sounds. Okay.
We're having some skipping issues, so let's pause it there and go back to 450, please.
I'm sorry, what time?
450.
Go ahead.
Surprise, no objection.
448. We'll play from here.
Oh, having a few technical difficulties.
I need to see those last few seconds. We can get them to work, I'm sure, if Mr. Brooks would like to see them. Could we please show for the witness only exhibit number 176?
He didn't say he doesn't consent
Do
again.
you recognize the photograph on the screen in front of you?
He misses a couple every once in a while.
It is still taken from my body cam footage. Those are my hands, and in my hands are the property that was taken from Mr. Brooks. You can see the officer's back at the open door of the squad, and Mr. Brooks' leg in the light there, where he's sitting in the squad.
Your Honor, I would move exhibit 176 into evidence and request permission to publish.
Objection, relevancy.
Exhibit 176 is received. Permission to publish is granted. The objection is overruled.
I'll go back off camera to get those details because I didn't
While
hear.
we're waiting for the screen,
I can't remember every
activate
detail
for the
sheet.
jurors, I'll ask you, Officer
His
Carpenter,
name.
do you know what happened to the objects that are in your hands in that exhibit?
Yes, I gave them to the officer whose car Mr. Brooks was sitting in.
You don't know the identity of that officer?
I don't. There were a lot of officers from a lot of different jurisdictions.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have.
Oh boy.
That's all you have? All right, thank you. Cross, please.
Yes.
He had all that time.
At
All
one
that
point
time
you
to prepare.
stated the suspect was wearing jogging pants. That'd be fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Were the jogging pants or blue jeans?
They were soft pants. They were not blue jeans.
Can we show Exhibit 80 again?
Yes, we can.
Well, yes, we can. Go ahead. Thank you.
Exhibit 80. Because the description of the pants are apparently going to
Fast
get
forward it a
Darrell
little
out of this jam he's in. Let's see.
I'm not gonna be sure exactly where to pause it at. You fast forward just a little bit. Can you pause? Can you zoom in a little bit? And play a few more seconds. Would that mess the zoom up? Would it still be zoomed in, or would it go back out?
It'll stay zoomed on that portion of the screen.
Okay. Pause.
We're at 5 seconds.
55, yeah. You would describe those pants as jogging pants or soft pants, as you say?
Yes.
He wants to say so bad because I was actually wearing jeans that night. That's the craziest part about it. Even if there are some things that are off about like the description of the suspect, he can't clear it up to say, oh, I was actually doing this or like wearing this thing instead.
And you stated that when you parked your car
where you parked your squad on Elizabeth and West, you hooked up with 2 other officers?
Yes.
And those officers had long guns?
Yes.
Can you explain what a long gun is?
Shoulder weapon, rifle, or shotgun.
Do you recall if it was a rifle or a shotgun?
I did not examine either weapon closely.
Are you done with this exhibit, sir?
Yeah, for right now, yeah. And you made reference to finding sandwich, credit cards, and things of that nature in the pants, correct?
An ID.
I
Say
found
the
a
last
sandwich
part.
while you were laying on the ground.
And you also
While you were laying
stated that you found a credit card.
Say the last thing.
Things of that nature. In fact, would it be fair to say that that's what was in your hand on Exhibit 176?
Do you need the exhibit to answer? Do you recall?
There were, I don't, thank you. There were what appeared to be credit cards and ID and a car key.
And they were in your hand, correct?
They were.
Oh, they magically appear. I guess he's trying to say she didn't take that from him. She already had it.
So would it be fair to say you also found those and not just a sandwich?
I did not pull that stuff out of your pocket, sir. That was a different officer. I did hold it while he finished searching you, sir.
So, I'm sorry, that threw me off.
Get the clown show back going, please.
So you obtained that the credit cards and all that from a different officer?
Yes.
Did you find anything else?
On your person, I was not the person searching you. Aside from the sandwich while you were on the ground.
So as far as your search, you just found a sandwich?
Correct.
He's not even arguing about the you thing anymore. I mean, I don't know if it's just been so properly dismantled at this point that he's like, okay, it's no point in even trying. But he doesn't usually do that, so I guess maybe he's saving up, or he's getting a second win together for maybe the next witness. I'm not sure, but he's not even fighting it anymore, surprisingly.
And at the time, do you recall why the suspect was being detained?
Yes.
And what was the reason?
Okay.
Because you matched a description that was broadcast over the police radio of a suspect involved in the parade incident.
I think Darrell's tired of being outsmarted by the witnesses like so much.
In this
to the
report,
point where it's
did
like,
you write it yourself or did another officer?
I wrote it.
To the point where everyone's literally laughing at him.
Do you recall writing that the suspect was being detained for investigative purposes?
Yes.
What's that mean?
Any reason why you wouldn't state what those purposes were in the report?
Yes. Because at the time we had contact with you, I was not fully aware of the circumstances.
Well, would it be fair to
say that you just stated why the suspect was being detained.
I just stated why this, I'm sorry, what was the question exactly, sir?
Would it be fair to say that you just stated when asked why was the suspect being detained at that moment? You
at
answered,
that moment.
Yeah,
Yes.
at that moment that you detained the suspect. You stated because they matched the description of someone involved in the parade.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
But then you stated that you just stated that at the time you weren't fully aware.
I knew that people had been hurt. I knew that shots had been fired. I did not know how many people were hurt. I did not know by what mechanism people would be hurt. I did not know the magnitude of the injuries. I just knew that something violent had happened.
So it'd be fair to say you weren't in the known of a lot of information at that point.
That's true.
Grounds.
Overruled. Her answer may stand.
Would it be fair to say that you were being heard in Exhibit 80 stating that if everything was on the up and up, you would be on your way?
Yes, sir, that's correct. That was me.
So would it be fair to say that was an inaccurate statement if...
I thought he was going to say, how could you say that when I'm still here? Was I the only one that thought he was getting at that moment? How could you say it was going to be on the up and up if I'm still here right now and I'm about to be in prison for the rest of my life? Like, hold on, I'm going to rewind just a little bit so I can get the full...
Thing was on the up and up, you would be on your way?
Yes, sir, that's correct. That was me.
So would it be fair to say that was an inaccurate statement if the suspect fit the description of something that happened in the parade?
Not at all.
Any follow-up on that?
And what do you mean by not at all?
Oh, he actually did it.
I mean, sometimes people look like someone who did something and turn out not to be that person. But that was not the case here.
So as far as you knew at the time, it could have been mistaken identity.
It could have been, but it was not.
Well, at the time, it'd be fair to say at the time you didn't know.
At the time, I did not know.
In this cross-exam, Darrell, it's
Did
like
you give the suspect any of that information?
Objection.
Grounds.
I'm not sure what information he's talking about.
Sustained is to the form of the question. It's vague.
Did you give the suspect any information on why they were being detained?
I said, actually, it wasn't me that said that. It was another officer that said that, and I can't tell you who it was because I don't know. While you were being put in the car, you were informed you were being detained for investigative purposes, which is an answer that's appropriate for the circumstances.
So it would be fair to say that that's not really all that informative?
I did not have a lot of information to give you, sir.
Exactly.
Keep saying you. Who are you referring to?
You, Mr. Brooks. Darrell Brooks.
That's the very first time he said this. I'm surprised that it took this long for him to like finally. Hold on, I'll back up a little bit. I'm talking a bit much, but I'm surprised it took him this long to finally say that. Usually he says it right from the jump when somebody refers to him as you or they say his name, but
keep saying you. Who are you referring to?
You, Mr. Brooks. Darrell Brooks, seated at the defense table.
Any pushback on that?
Any reason why you wouldn't tell a suspect why they're being detained? essentially being that if you take someone into custody, they should know why they're being taken into custody. Wouldn't you agree?
This is absolutely ridiculous.
I can't give you information that I don't have, and I wouldn't want to tell you the wrong thing. That wouldn't be fair.
So why would a suspect be detained without any information to your knowledge?
Objection.
Grounds.
Asked and answered.
Also calls for speculation, vague, sustained as to the form of the question.
Darrell, in this cross-exam, when we get to these points where he can't even ask a question that gets any like information that doesn't point directly to him, it's time to end it. But he won't do it. I mean, every testimony so far
fair to
is...
say that you can detain a suspect without them knowing why they're being detained?
Objection. This
Grounds.
calls for a legal analysis, not factually relevant.
No.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
Dude, just get to your sovereign citizen BS, in all honesty. That's really where he just needs to go and then end it.
Would it be
Really
fair to
just
say
end
you
it.
initially responded to the 500 block of Elizabeth because of a report of, I guess you would call it a trespassing report?
I would more put it under the heading of suspicious behavior under the circumstances.
So is that why you were initially dispatched to that area for suspicious behavior?
Yes.
And do you recall when you got the report of shots fired?
I believe that was one of the first things I heard over the radio before I was even there.
Do you recall ever finding out where the shots fired came from?
Eventually I did.
Do you recall in your reading report writing that when you had arrived at Elizabeth and West and parked your squad and began to walk down the street, that you had your firearm in your hand?
Yes.
And was that because of the call of shots fired, or did you feel unsafe at the time?
That's because there were shots fired and I did not know by whom.
Did you get a report of anyone hit by the shots?
At that time, no. I did not know one way or the other if anyone had been hurt.
Did you?
Had been hit. I knew people were hurt.
Do you recall the area of where the shots fired? Was that the general area?
She just said
The general area, somewhere in the vicinity of the parade.
She just said she doesn't have any, or she didn't have that much information at that time.
Is Elizabeth and West in the general area?
It's a few blocks away.
And you did state you didn't find any weapons on the suspect, right?
Correct.
You find any shell casings or?
No.
That doesn't matter because you used the vehicle
Do
to
you have
actually
any
run through
reason
the
to
parade
believe that the shots came from the
and to hurt
suspect?
people.
I did not know who had done shooting. I had heard a report of shots fired. I did not know by whom, as I've said, sir.
Any reason to believe that the shots came from the suspect is what I'm asking.
I did not know.
And you stated that upon seeing the suspect on the porch
that they were gesturing?
Gesturing? Yes, sir.
And you also stated that in your written report that it was in the upper 30s that evening with the brisk wind. Would that be fair to say?
It was
Pretty
upper
cold.
30s, lower 40s, somewhere right in there. It was cold. I was cold.
Do you think that maybe the gesturing was because the suspect was cold?
Objection.
Grounds.
Calls for speculation.
What does this matter?
Overruled. She may answer if she's able.
I didn't know.
And do you recall checking the general area around the house that you found the suspect?
Yes, sir.
Did you find anything around the house? I guess I'm referring to where you wrote in your report you checked the likely path of travel.
Yes, sir, I do recall that. No, we did not find anything.
And do you recall checking the pockets of the coat worn by the suspect?
Yes.
Do you recall how the suspect obtained the coat?
I recall what I was told.
So it'd be fair to say you wasn't sure if you were only told this information. That'd be fair to say?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
You made reference to saying you only know what you were told. So it'd be fair to say at that time you didn't know unless you were told.
Unless you were told what?
How the suspect obtained the coat.
I asked the resident of the house you were at. Actually, I believe he volunteered to me that he had given you a coat to wear.
And you checked the pockets of the coat?
Yes.
And did you find anything?
I did not find anything.
Prosecution's in disbelief about these
At what
questions.
point did you
These
learn
questions
that,
are so irrelevant. It's crazy though.
The suspect who was being detained would be arrested?
At some point later.
And it was another officer's vehicle that the suspect was placed in, correct?
Correct.
And when did you leave that scene?
Not for hours.
Why so long?
Because when there is a crime scene that potentially spans blocks, everything needs to be searched for evidence. Witnesses need to be located because once things are gone, things are gone. So it has to all be done right the first time.
It's like these questions are so irrelevant. I'm wondering if these attorneys that he had before actually wrote this, or if he's thinking of this. Which, like, it's not much of an argument it's not much of a defense you can really have for a crime like this, when literally everything points towards him, like I said. And so maybe these are the questions, like these are the only things they could probably come up with in terms of this, like, this situation. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is just stuff that he's thinking of right now. But
did you write your report that evening?
I believe I wrote it the next morning.
So it'd be fair to say after you had learned a little bit more information, then you wrote the report?
That would be true, yes.
Even the bailiff is looking up at the clock. He needs to wrap this up. Like, it's gotten to a point now where it's like you haven't asked anything that may say that you haven't done this. So you should probably end the cross-exam.
In the video, Exhibit 80, the suspect gave you his name, right?
That's correct.
He definitely did. Could you say the name into the microphone? Why would he ask about this?
Was that right when you handcuffed him, if you recall?
Right around that time, yes, sir.
I want to hear what he's getting at with this. He's probably not going to stay on that topic for too long. He does not want to be associated with his own name.
And did you talk to any other witnesses that evening besides the owner of the home that you saw the suspect?
No.
In the hours that you stayed on Elizabeth, did you talk to any other witnesses at all?
No, I looked through a few yards and mostly maintained a perimeter for a search.
Do you recall why you looked through a few yards?
Searching for evidence.
Do you recall what evidence you may have been searching for at that time?
You know, a lot of times you don't know until you find it.
So do you recall what maybe you might have been looking for a weapon or anything like that?
That would have gotten my attention, yes, absolutely.
Did you find any weapon?
No, sir.
The weapon he used, he left it in someone's driveway, so... Of course, there was no weapon on him.
Did you learn any knowledge of any ring video footage that evening?
I don't recall if I viewed the footage that evening or the following day. I did at some point view that ring footage, yes.
So you were aware that night that it was ring footage?
I believe I was aware of it that night. I don't believe I watched it, but I can't say with certainty.
And do you recall initially responding to Clinton Street and Broadway first?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall why you responded to that location first?
To see if I could help anyone.
About how long did you stay there before responding to Elizabeth?
Just a few minutes.
No further questions.
All right, thank you. Any redirect?
It took that long.
Referring specifically to the time that you placed the handcuffs on Mr. Brooks, remember that time frame?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name.
Overruled. You may answer.
You let a whole
Yes,
cross-exam go by.
Do you recall how Mr.
Being
Brooks
called
ended
that.
up on the ground as that was happening?
I do.
Could you tell us about that?
Objection. Saw in video.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
We instructed him to put his hands up and then to get down on the ground.
Did he comply with those instructions?
He did.
Did you or any other officer have to put hands on Mr. Brooks to get him on the ground?
Objection. Speculative.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
No, sir, we did not.
After he was on the ground, that's when the handcuffs went on?
Objection.
correct.
Leading.
Overruled. She may answer.
Your answer again was,
That's correct.
at any point after the handcuffs went on, did you or any other officer throw Mr. Brooks to the ground?
Objection leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
We did not.
I see. Okay. So at first I didn't know what he was getting at, Attorney Zach. I didn't know. I mean, I knew he was asking these questions to like clear up anything that Darrell could try to use in his defense. But now he's just trying to clear up the possibility or just the idea that they may have used unnecessary force. So, okay, I finally see it now.
How did you treat Mr. Brooks as you moved him from his prone position on the ground to the squad car?
Objection.
So that is something he was trying to kind of hint at.
As the video shows, he was instructed, let's call it the path of least resistance, to get up off of a prone position, eventually to his feet, with a minimum of discomfort.
Did you successfully achieve that objective?
Objection speculative.
I'll rephrase.
Are you able to answer?
Yes, in as best as one can stand a person up when they have their hands handcuffed behind their back. Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down.